Superstars all over the place. Dwight Howard going to join us. He'll tell us his thoughts on all of the NBA. Plus, while we're getting these superstars in, we'll get HAHN's thoughts on the New York Knicks. And Matt Bonner going to talk all NBA. We are stacked today for Yahoo Sports Daily, starting right now. He's Coley Harvey. I'm Jason Fitz. For the next 2 hours, we got you covered for everything you need to know. Yeah, we got some NFL mock draft we'll have some fun with. We got a lot we're going to get into. But, Coley, we start right out of the gates with what was an epic evening. Like, I'll be honest, I'm that guy that usually comes in and I'm like, oh, I don't know, the play-in. And then last night, oh, my God, I'm jumping up and down. I'm screaming at my TV in the middle of the night for no good reason. The Charlotte Hornets take down the Miami Heat 127-126 in a game that had everything. Chaotic ending, chaotic last 30 seconds in overtime that almost saw Charlotte blow a 5-point lead, only to have LaMelo go out, get the go-ahead bucket with only seconds remaining. I just get all the feels. I got all the goosebumps. I got everything, Coley. Just walk me through how you were feeling watching that.
I was feeling the exact same way. And in fact, I'm that nerd that after the game, I had to go back and look at what the win probability rating was throughout the final finish of that ball game, from the end of the third quarter through the fourth quarter into the overtime. And it was up and down, up and down. And with 8 seconds left in the game, with Tyler Hero on the free throw line, taking those 3 free throws, Charlotte was down to a 23% win probability. I'm amazed it was even that high. I thought it was going to be even lower than that. And then, of course, LaMelo Ball just seconds later with that wonderful layup to send this game to its conclusion. The Hornets winning, advancing on and into the postseason. And this is incredible for this team. I felt like I was channeling our good guy Doug over here, just cheering for the Hornets as if I was from Charlotte, as if I was one of those people who was part of the Hive, because I wanted to see this go down. I felt like it was going to be a good moment to see the home crowd actually have a chance to celebrate this. But then I also found myself at times cheering for the Heat because it was just so dramatic there. You had Davion Mitchell late in that third quarter and fourth quarter, just going off 3 after 3 after 3. It seemed like he couldn't miss. It seemed like Andrew Wiggins couldn't miss 3 after 3 for him. And then, of course, Kobe White for the Hornets just stepping up, making dagger after dagger. I mean, he had the one dagger right after a turnover. I mean, he literally stepped back, threw down the 3. It seemed like nobody could miss. And this was the most dramatic finish to a early postseason game, I guess we'll call it. I guess this is technically playoff period now. And if this playoffs is like this, if the rest of it is anything like this game was, like I tweeted, I posted on Threads. I don't really tweet that much these days, but I posted on Threads. I said, buckle up, everybody, because this is about to be a really fun postseason. It got me excited. It got me hyped. We were in the group chat, Fitz, texting about this game. And like you said, you were screaming at times. You didn't think you would ever scream that NBA game like that before. Well, I was doing the same thing. I'm excited to get this playoffs going because, man, last night was fun.
Yeah, and look, Kobe White, at this point, whatever deal you made with the basketball gods, like, look, my friend, last night was one of those nights where everything he was heaving up was finding a way in. That will come back at some point. So when Kobe has, when he has one of those bad nights coming up, and we're all like, I can't believe it, just remember the basketball gods giveth and taketh away, because there's no way you can get that level of love repeatedly. The resilience to survive what could have been a meltdown. Like, I genuinely thought, for anyone that wasn't watching the game, in overtime, Charlotte was up by 5. It looked like they had a pretty good handle on it. Tyler, I can be your hero, baby, hits the 3-pointer. And then all of a sudden, it's just an inexcusable turnover in their own end, pressing the ball where they didn't need to. Miami collapses on it. It leads to another Tyler Hero opportunity and just a stupid foul on a 3-point shot, which sends one of the better free throw shooters in the league to the stripe. All of a sudden, in the matter of those quick plays, Charlotte was suddenly down by 1. I thought, Coley, that would be a meltdown. I think there's absolutely something amazing about watching Charlotte handle that moment of having the, okay, we got this, we're good. And then all of a sudden, wait, Houston, we have a problem. We are not good. To then come back, calm down, and get a great job. I mean, Ball just did a great job on that last drive of using his body, forcing the contact, and still finding a way to the rim. I was impressed by the resilience because certainly with that shot went in with, I think, 4.7 seconds left. It looked like Charlotte was so calm in that moment. That, to me, is a statement, Coley, that I do look at and say, okay, Like, if you're asking me, can we believe in Charlotte to handle the playoffs? This is the equivalent of a game 7. Like, I love this win or go home sort of thing. It's, I love the concept that the loser of this game, their season is done, right? So for me to watch Charlotte survive that level of chaos, I think that's a statement to the Hornets.
It really is. I mean, it's a statement to the fact that this is a very young team, but a young team that played as if it had been there before. I think that calmness that you talked about, it wasn't just evident in that overtime. It was evident all throughout the second half. Every time, and I guess that goes with what I was saying earlier. Every time it felt like a Heat player would hit this big three out of nowhere, or a big time shot, or a big time layup, the Hornets would respond on the other end and hit their own big shot. Of course, a lot of that coming from Kobe White. I know you say the law of averages, the basketball gods giveth, and then they may take it away at some point, but they certainly were giving to him in this game late. And that's what got the Hornets feeling comfortable, to the point that I think they didn't really have panic on their faces even after Tyler Hero goes to the line, and you know that he's going to make all those threes, or those free throws. You know that he's going to bury all of them. You know that at this point the Heat might just very well have this game wrapped up. But kudos to this team again for just staying in the moment, staying calm, playing like a team that was well above its weight in terms of experience in these kinds of moments. And I think it just goes to a lot of what we've been talking about when we talk about the Hornets. This is a team that's really setting itself up for some nice magic in the next couple of years. Will we see more magic later in this postseason with this team? We shall only see. But at the very least, it feels like the foundation is really being laid well in Charlotte.
Credit to Charlotte's ability to win on an off shooting night from three. Also, I should note that LaMelo Ball 2 of 16 from threes. Konkanippel 0 of 6 from three. If I'd have told you right now, yesterday, 24 hours ago, if I invented a time machine and said, hey, by the way, LaMelo and Con are going to combine to be 2 of 22 from three, I don't think anybody would have predicted a win. Now, this win was not without its own level of controversy, though. I'm impressed we managed to go 7 minutes of credit without getting to this. But let's get to it, because there was no Bam Adebayo for the fourth quarter and overtime because of a lower back injury sustained in a fall that appeared to be initiated by LaMelo Ball grabbing his leg. If you haven't seen the replay, Ball falls to the ground. There's a lot of action around it. And then it looks like Ball takes a swipe towards Bam's leg as he's trying to come down with the basketball. Also should be noted, not the first time LaMelo Ball has gotten in trouble for taking a swipe at Bam Adebayo's leg. So this is not the first time we've seen it, but it didn't get whistled in real time. The play continued. There wasn't a break coming up. It didn't get looked at again. There was no ejection. Did you have a problem with the way that this went down?
I actually didn't, because of the letter of the law of the game. And when you looked at that play live, when I looked at it live, in fact, I didn't know what took place, because mainly the camera angles and everything, you just see bodies go on the floor. You assume it was a scrap for a loose ball. And then there was a play on the other end immediately. And then the play came back onto that same end. So it was a lot of back and forth drama in the moment. The referees really couldn't stop action until there was a bucket made back on that same end by the Hornets, and the Heat called a timeout. That was a chance to look at it, but because the game had continued on, there had been other game action. There was no reason, or no way, I should say, for the officials to go back to that play and say, you know what, we've got to assess penalties right here. And that's unfortunate, because it certainly was an egregious act. I think if the referees had been able to look at that play in the moment, they certainly would have charged some level of flagrant foul on LaMelo Ball for that incident, because it was clear as day when you looked at the replay. He certainly did grab his hand around the back of Bam Adebayo's foot and helped to bring him down to the floor. And then the fact that you lost, if you're the Heat, you lost one of your key stars for the rest of the game. I mean, at the time, I didn't think he might have been gone for that long, but he clearly came down so hard on that lower back that it was enough that Bam wasn't able to come back into the game. What should happen here in terms of punishment for LaMelo Ball? Should he be suspended? No, that is way too over the line. That's way too egregious for this infraction. But I do think that the NBA is going to look at that play, whether it's today or sometime in the coming days, and levy potentially a hefty fine, because it is not within the nature of what the game is trying to do in terms of its sportsmanship. And, at the end of the day, you could argue, if you're a Heat fan, that one play had a major outcome on the rest of this game, because if Bam Adebayo is still in there, you got to imagine that the Heat would have played even better down the stretch. I will say that it did feel like coming out of halftime that play kind of inspired Miami in some ways. It just felt like the ball movement got that much crisper. Some of the shooting got that much better. Their aggression seemed to show up. So maybe that was something that actually did inspire Miami to make this so much more of a basketball game than it had been early in the first half.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Coley. Like, I didn't love the play. I don't love the look. I think Paul's got to be better than that. Also, I think it's a shame that he tarnishes his own incredible game. Like, look, he didn't have a great night, and he referenced that afterwards on the court. But he had some big shots down the stretch, which is what we remember in so much of this greatness. I do have to caution here. If anybody watching this is saying, "Oh my God, he should have been ejected. How could they not eject him?" I guess I just want to see your receipts. Because if you've ever sat there and said, the refs can't get in the middle of this, I don't want the refs to decide the game. When do the refs think it's about them? We want to see the players, not the refs. Like, these are all the things I have to hear every single time a ref tries to make a call. Like, every single time there's a whistle at a big moment, I listen to narratives all over media and fans saying, oh, refs should not inject themselves into the game. Like, just go out there and let these guys play. Look, I think this is egregious. I think he should be fined for sure. But if we, at this point, turn around and suspend him, I just, at that point, we're doing the exact same thing that we tell people all the time we shouldn't do. We're letting the call sort of be bigger than the player or the game. It's a bad look. It was a stupid play. He should be fined for it, should have been penalized, but I don't think a suspension is necessary. I think the NBA's got bigger problems, one of which might be Amazon's feed. It was Amazon's first crack at a postseason game with under 30 seconds to go in overtime. The feed crashed for a lot of people. Technical difficulties were everywhere. All right. Mine was fine, by the way. Like, my feed was fine.
Really?
But I saw the entire internet exploding about technical difficulties. So how we feeling like about the new world of NBA playoffs that the feed may or may not be able to handle the volume?
Well, I mean, I guess that's the thing I want to know is what exactly led to those technical difficulties, because it felt like because of when it happened with about 30 seconds left in the OT, it was a moment where I'm sure all of social media was talking about, hey, are you seeing this game? You got to witness this final. And people started flooding Amazon trying to go over. So it feels like the server just got overloaded and they had some issue in the moment with trying to maintain the feed. Maybe it was something else. I have no idea, but that's what it at least feels like from those of us who just aren't in the know like Amazon would be. But listen, this is something that happens in sports all the time. With live TV, live broadcasting all the time. I've been a sideline reporter for a long time in various respects, both at ESPN when I was there, when I was at Fox Sports and Big Ten Network. I understand the way that things go wrong, and things go wrong a lot more than I think the audience at home realizes, because whether it's audio issues or feeds with the video or cameras, all kind of chaos happens. What you have to do when you're on that broadcast crew, whether you're behind the scenes or in front of the camera, is you got to figure out a way to keep it going and make it look as smooth as possible, as if nothing has taken place. And unfortunately, in a moment like that, Amazon couldn't hide that. They had to throw up the technical difficulties graphic because, it was clear that it was some other issue that was causing them to go off air. What they also have to do, though, when you have those kinds of moments, is you have to figure out how to learn from them and how to prevent it from happening again. And I don't think that Amazon's the only one that's paying attention to this today. Netflix is going to be paying attention to this. YouTube TV, I'm sure, is going to be paying attention to this for games down the line when that may happen with them. Peacock, some of these other streaming services are going to want to make sure that they're not falling into this same trap, so that they're not being talked about with their product, instead of this great game being talked about all over the internet the next day.
Yeah, let's just remember all the way back to the 90s when the XFL suddenly was taken off TV in the middle of their second week because there was a truck issue. That was on TV, not on the internet. And to your point, like, I remember one time that I was hosting Outside the Lines, which was the most buttoned up show at ESPN, right? Like, I'm wearing a full suit and tie. And I'll never forget looking at one camera to get my guest in, and all of a sudden they get my ear and they're like, comms are down. We don't have it. Go to the other camera. So I swing over to the other camera live on TV, and they're like, no. All comms are down. We have nothing. And I just looked at the camera and I'm like, I'm sorry, this is live television and we can't do anything right now. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll see if we can get all of it figured out. That was live on television at ESPN. So for anybody that is, for a button-up show at ESPN, for anybody that's just yelling and screaming about the internet, like, stuff happens. This is going to happen. And there's literally nothing that anyone, when we are watching internet TV for the most part, there's nothing we can do to be 100% fail safe. So everybody, in the words of Aaron Rodgers, might just need to relax on this. You know, I'm usually the old guy on the lawn screaming at the clouds. This time I'm actually saying, hey, the clouds, the internet, TV, they all screw it up sometimes. It's just part of life. Everybody needs to relax a little bit. Okay, that's one of the two play-in games, and it was epic. Coming up next, we'll get you some of the reaction from the other of the two play-in games, and see how much we're buying Portland.
See the snap.
Jerome to throw, and that's caught. Demonstreet goes up and gets it, and it'll be 1st and goal for New Mexico.
Demonstreet's having a day.
1st and goal. Johnson on the keeper, and he'll throw it up, and Jefferson's got it. Touchdown, New Mexico. How do you like that?
Cade Klubnik, like, you can see something. I just feel like he does enough where it's like he can move around okay. I like the accuracy. I don't think he's like a special decision maker, but I don't think he's like a complete moron either, and he'll push it a little bit. Like, he just, if I'm trying to find a guy who can, like, we just want a capable backup in the 5th or 6th round, he's probably the only guy left that I like in that mold.
What are some things about the Detroit Pistons that we on the outside might not know?
The culture, when I walked into this, the culture for me was pretty impressive. The way the players kind of come to bat for each other. And, Isaiah Stewart is not a guy off the court that is like an angry human being. In that Charlotte game, it was all he was saying in the locker room was like, I'm going to have you guys back. That's what I do. For me, it's impressive to see just how together everyone is and, the culture that they've continued to build.
Also got a rushing touchdown. Gonna run it to Brown. Flea flicker. Back to Myler. Under pressure. Myler throws it late. Brown. And Brown, the stiff arm, crosses the midfield. Down the far boards. Brown for the end zone. Waltzes in for the Rattlers touchdown.
That's the MVP throwing to the offensive rookie of the year right there.
So Brown took the handoff, flipped it back, and then he found space.
What's up, Jason and Coley? Here's what happened while you were sleeping in the NBA. As if the first game wasn't lit enough, the 7-8 game in the Western Conference was just as exciting, with the Blazers taking down the Suns in Phoenix 114-110 in a play-in thriller. The Trailblazers punched their ticket to the postseason for the first time in 5 years. And the guy who made that happen, Deni Avdija, 41 points, 12 assists, 7 boards, including some clutch buckets in the final moments that helped the Blazers seal the victory. Jrue Holiday was also in his bag with 21, but it was Jeremy Grant who hit some dagger threes with a crucial steal when the Blazers needed it most. On the flip side, we have Jalen Green, who dropped 35 points, but Devin Booker wasn't at his best. Missing free throws, settling for contested looks. He had plenty of chances, but just couldn't deliver. Now, the Suns will face the winner of the Warriors and Clippers tonight with their playoff hopes on the line. Now, Portland goes into a series against San Antonio with minimal pressure and nothing to lose. So I got to ask you guys, do you think this moment captures Portland's ceiling, or can their gritty underdog energy make San Antonio uncomfortable in this opening series? Back to you.
All right, Coley. I've made it pretty clear how I feel about this for the most part. Let me be clear again, said in no uncertain terms. Congratulations to Portland for getting their last win of the season. Like, they're just, congratulations. It's awesome. You get to go into the actual playoffs where you will take on San Antonio, and it's awesome that you got that win. You're not getting another one. San Antonio, this is going to be sweet. And I'm pretty confident in that. Like, I guess, like, this is the risk I take. Maybe it's a gentleman's sweep and somehow, San Antonio oversleeps a game and Portland wins one, but I have literally zero faith. Like, right now, if the mortgage company came to me and said, ha, we got you. You're paying off your mortgage, but you got to make a bet on who's going to win the Spurs-Portland series, I'm going to feel so good about that bet that I'm going to go start spending the money now. Like, the Spurs are going to win this series. The Spurs are going to win this series easily. It is not going to be a big deal. Portland is about to get demolished. Tell me I'm wrong, Coley.
I really don't want to tell you you're wrong. I feel like I'm right there with you. Maybe Portland gets one win out of this series. I don't know. I feel like that's got to happen. They can't just be swept, right? If I am able to play the counter, if I can play the villain, I guess, to your hero in this moment, because I do, like I said, I do kind of feel like I agree with you. The counter to that would be Deni Avdija. I can never pronounce his last name, but Avdija. Deni had the 41-point effort in this game last night. He's been on a tear, an absolute tear of late. Since March 31st, he's got 7 straight games in which he scored 25 or more points. And it's not just that he's scoring the buckets. He's scoring the buckets late. He's scoring them in clutch situations. He has really risen the level around him, and that's allowed the Portland Trail Blazers to kind of rise to the occasion around him as well. And so because of how he has played, I think that maybe Portland has a chance to make some noise, maybe at least in one of these games. But as you said, San Antonio is just too overwhelming. They're really going to overmatch Portland most likely in this series. So I would also agree with you that it feels like that grittiness, that toughness, that great comeback win. It feels like this is probably the ceiling for Portland's season. But again, Deni gives them a chance.
I keep looking at it, and I'm going to do this every round because this is just fun to me. This is fun. This is how awful I am. I just looked at the Portland Trail Blazers roster. I have it up here in front of me, and the tallest person on their roster is one Donovan Clingan at 7'2". I've seen a lot of Donovan Clingan up close and personal. So now all I keep thinking about is the height of Wemby versus Donovan Clingan at 7'2". And that's the best. They've got Yang Hansen also too at 7'1". They got 2 7-footers that are both going to just be absolutely lorded over by the actual freak in the NBA, the person that has the length that nobody can stop anyway. So then all I keep thinking about is like, okay, what it looked like watching Jokic shoot that perfect, just moonshot right over the fingertips of Wemby. I keep thinking about that and then asking myself, do I believe that Donovan Clingan can do that? And the answer is no. No, I do not. Phoenix now faces the winner of Golden State and the Clippers. God, I'm Debbie Downer this morning. For the 8th final spot in the West. Are you bummed we didn't get Dillon Brooks versus Wemby after all? Like, I wanted Dillon Brooks versus Wemby because Dillon's out here walking into the ring, swaggy talking about what a badass he is. Now he ain't scared and all these different things. Like, I kind of wanted just to get that moment. I'm not going to get it. How do we feel about this Phoenix taking on the Warriors or Clippers?
Well, we feel like this is a good chance to see really what Phoenix has if they do have anything in the tank left this season. And if they can get past the Clippers or the Warriors, then, well, hey, good for them. But in terms of that matchup, not being able to face Wemby, hey, Phoenix fans probably say, hey, there's this slim chance. There's a chance it could happen. A lot's got to play out, including Phoenix somehow getting around the buzzsaw that is OKC first and foremost. So we'll see if that could actually ever take place. I think I have even less confidence and belief in that taking place than I do in terms of Portland sneaking some games past the Spurs. In terms of that matchup, if it were to happen, yeah, I'm with you. I would have loved to have seen Dillon Brooks come in trying to say that he's going to do this and that to Wemby, and then in the game trying to get underneath Wemby's skin, seeing if he can throw him off his game. But I also have this feeling and belief in who Wemby is in terms of being a cool, calm, and collected customer that he really wouldn't let Dillon Brooks get underneath his skin. He'd really still play his game, and not just play his game, but dominate, because he'd want to make sure that he sent a point and sent a message home to Dillon Brooks in a way that was a little more subtle, a little more nuanced. That might include yakking a dunk or two on top of his head just to let him know, hey, I am the king of this court. You can't hang with me. I'm the freak for a reason. I'm the alien for a reason. So, yeah, I would have loved to have seen that. But at the end of the day, I still really want to see first and foremost, this Wemby matchup against OKC. I know we're still weeks away from that actually taking place, but I'm ready to get to that stage.
Yeah, the funny thing is, to me, it's such a 3-horse race in the West. I'm going to add Denver into that. Like, everything that leads up to that, I want it to be quick, easy, and painless. I don't want anyone to get hurt. I want everybody to be bubble wrapped. Like, Hell, I don't care if San Antonio and Oklahoma City sit a bunch of their guys to the first round of the playoffs. Just keep them healthy. I just want to see the best of the best from Denver, Kansas City, and San Antonio rise to the point that we can see which of those teams this year is the best. The opposite of the best would be Devin Booker last night, a rough night for him. I struggle with this because the concept is like, hey, is Book overrated? Also, like you look at the week he had leading this team into the playoffs, and he's had some really big games. But last night, as you heard Titus say when he was bringing this back in, last night is going to be defined for some of us by just thinking about some of the missed opportunities that Devin Booker, points he left on the court for a team that needed every one of them in a close game.
Yeah, it will be defined that way. And it will be, honestly, this is his legacy at this moment in time, because this Suns team hasn't matched what the expectation was just from a couple of years ago. It seems like since we thought of them as a true year in, year out possible contender in the West, they've kind of slipped in favor. And I do feel like a game like last night proves a little bit of that. I would like to see for Booker, some level of redemption in this game coming up against the winner of the Warriors-Clippers series, Clippers matchup. And if so, I think that we could see maybe a little resurgence in that first round series against OKC. I mean, again, the odds are just stacked so greatly against the Suns right now, or anybody that ends up facing OKC in that game. So I don't know if we're going to have a chance to see Booker in the rest of this season kind of resubmit his legacy or resubmit who he's been. But certainly that game shows that he didn't give what we've expected to have from him these last couple of seasons. So I'm curious to see again what happens in this matchup against the winner of the Warriors and Clippers.
Isn't this what happens with every superstar? Like Devin Booker is 29. He's about to be 30. And in the NBA, we have this period for the first few years when you're great, when we're like, oh man, this guy's the beast. He's the next face of the league. He's going to be the superstar that carries the NBA. Like that's what we do. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years into that, then it's like, okay, well, that guy, we need to see a little bit more from him. And then there's a turning point. There's a turning point when it doesn't lead to championships where we figure out who we're going to blame. And right now, we've got to figure out exactly what we expect from Devin Booker. Like, I think to call him overrated would then ask the question of what do we think he's capable of? I don't believe Devin Booker is the type of person that can single-handedly will his team to a championship. I think he can be a championship piece on a championship-level team. But also, Phoenix hasn't really put a championship-level team around him. They've got some pieces, but Phoenix is still trying to build. So the question we got to ask is it overrated, or if Devin Booker had the right infrastructure around him, is he still a superstar? And I think the answer is probably a hell of a lot closer to yes than no for me on that. But I also think it's okay to look at it. If we're going to hold Devin Booker and the Suns to the same standard that we hold every other superstar and every other team, at some point we need to start having the who's wasting who. Is it the Suns are wasting Devin Booker, or Devin Booker really isn't that guy? They got to figure that out quickly, Coley, because that's part of like whatever Phoenix's long-term plan is. Losing in the play-in is sort of the worst situation because you're not giving yourself a lot of opportunity to get a great draft pick. You're not giving yourself any opportunity to move forward. So they're in purgatory, which is sort of this version of hell for basketball.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think it is on the team. It is on the structure that's been in place around him. Is this a chance for Booker to maybe begin a journey elsewhere and become that extra piece in another place to help another team get a championship? I think that's another question that we've got to ask coming off of this.
Yeah, and Matt Ishbia, the owner of the Suns, is going to have to look around and figure out how to take all that money. God knows he's got more money than anybody could ever need to build an NBA empire, and certainly his money has helped places like Michigan State. He's got to figure out how to help it the right way in the NBA. It's a process. It's a process, and certainly Ishbia was quick to talk to some media personalities earlier this year when he thought the Suns weren't getting enough credit. I'll be interested to see if he uses his platform, his availability of microphone, the same way to defend essentially what the building plan moving forward is for the Phoenix Suns. We have plenty of NBA action to come. We will keep breaking it down. Coming up next, we'll figure out what to make of the rest of the playoffs and the rest of the league. With that, man, Matt Bonner going to join us next.
If you're a team that needs a left tackle, would you be concerned that this seemingly is a right tackle draft?
Concern, no, because you got to have a plan for it. And this is where your area scouts and the forecasting of what's coming out in the draft is important, and understanding that. I want to go back to CeCe Maunoa that you talked about. I think his overall stock is up for me because I'm feeling like now if you have CeCe Maunoa on your team, now he gives you the ability to put your best five on the field, whether he's your right tackle or he's your guard.
We're going to give you a name. You tell us whether it's a real college athlete or if our producers just made it up out of thin air. Okay, so collegian or concoction. The first one we'll give you is Fat Brooks. Now, for clarity, fat is P-H-A-T.
That is a concoction.
That's a collegian. He's a guard for Central Michigan.
Fat Brooks.
Fat Brooks, yes.
Cook sends it away. Josiah King takes it deep in his own end zone. King across the 10. King across midfield, beats Cook, and King gonna dance into the end zone. Touchdown.
Playing Russian roulette there. I mean, how many times are you gonna just kick right to him? Look at that. Who wants to run in front of that? That's 5'11", 220 pounds, and all thighs. I mean, no one's gonna try to go low on him.
Who is your first player to team fit that you absolutely love?
Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end of Oregon, to the Chiefs. And this was basically a post-combine reaction, basically Vernon Davis style numbers athletically. And so I think it was validating to see kind of him put those numbers up athletically, his speed, explosion, change of direction. He feels like a player that is not going to drop very far in this draft, especially in a draft where there aren't a ton of blue chip players.
You see here a tweet from Matt Bonner. We're working on some technical issues. We think we're going to get him in just a second, but that tweet is Matt Bonner talking about Pop saying the best, and obviously Pop a legend to the NBA, to everybody that had the opportunity to interact with him, including Matt Bonner, who I think we're going to try. We're working on it. We're facilitating some technology issues. We're basically going full Amazon here. We got some technology issues. It'll be like that time with Joe Coley. I think one of the things that really is interesting while we wait for Matt is that sometimes just the success has been so seamless again for the Spurs. I almost forget. I feel like Pop is still a presence in the league.
Yeah. And when there are these moments where he comes around the Prospect Center and he's there, you kind of have this nostalgia for what that team used to be. Spurs fans obviously get very excited to see him back in the building. And now with this team doing what it's doing in the into the playoffs at this stage, it certainly is hearkening back to those days when he had that team running that fundamental basketball to a T, that championship basketball to a T. And, we'll see if they're able to continue to build on that legacy that Popovich laid.
Look, anytime you almost forget that there's a different coach when you're replacing Pop, that's just a statement. And it's a statement, frankly, to the job that Mitch Johnson has done stabilizing this whole thing, because you never know. Like, a coach has to find his own voice and his own footing and his own, sort of culture. But also it feels like the Spurs have such an established way that they are, right? We just presumed, even looking at Wemby, when we were talking about when he would come back and working through injury, how much of our conversation was, well, here's how the Spurs typically treat that, without necessarily acknowledging, well, that's how the Spurs have treated that, but new coach could mean new anything. And so for Mitch to come in and just find his footing so comfortably in this, I think it's rare, it's special, and it's a statement, Coley.
It is. And maybe it just says something about the state of what's around San Antonio, too, because there is this reverence for what the history of the organization has been for all these years. And that's a statement to Mitch as well for coming in and saying, look, I pay the deference that's due to what Popovich made, what that legacy was that he left. And I want to continue to do my own thing. And I think we actually might have a man who could put even more of this in perspective for us.
Yeah, let's bring him in. 12-time NBA veteran, 12-year, I should say, two-time champion, studio analyst for Toronto Raptors, the Red Mamba, Matt Bonner. Matt, appreciate your time, man. Like, we started talking about Pop and, the seamless transition. It feels like at times, because we almost forget the Pop isn't around. Like, how has Mitch Johnson been able to just immediately make this team his, but still kind of work into that culture?
Well, first of all, he bucked the trend of Stanford grads being successful once they leave the university. I'm being sarcastic, of course. But no, Mitch is a very smart guy, basketball IQ wise, and just generally, and was a point guard, so understands being a floor general, leadership, how important communication is, managing different personalities. Basically, I always feel like point guards tend to make the best coaches if that's what they decide to pursue, because you're basically a coach on the floor. And he's been able to have time as an assistant coach under Coach Pop to kind of learn his ways, learn what the Spurs way is all about. And when his opportunity came to take over and be the head coach, he had all the tools in the tool belt needed to be able to make that transition you speak of.
One of the key pieces to this year's playoff run, obviously, is Victor Wembanyama. He's averaging 25 points, over 3 blocks a game. He's just, of course, in his third season. So I got to ask you, what is what's been the turning point of his development for you? What's been the moment where you've been able to see, hey, this guy has taken this team to that level that you guys were?
I don't know if there's been one moment, like all of a sudden everything clicked. I think he's still getting better. He still has a long ways to go. And the most important part is between the ears, he understands that. He's still young. Obviously, he's going to continue to get stronger. I think the biggest piece with regards to that is figuring out how to get the ball as close to the hoop as possible. Because if you get him within, 8-10 feet of the hoop, it's over. He's just too long, too athletic. No one can stop him once he does that. The problem is, because he's so tall and slight, you see what teams do. They put a big, everybody's shorter, but like a stronger guy, and just try to manhandle him and physically prevent him from getting close to the hoop. Obviously, he has other skills like shooting, ball handling, that allow him to still be effective. But I think when he figures out, and not just him, the team too, like how and when to get him the ball closer to the hoop, when all that comes together, he's going to be unstoppable, even more so on the offensive end. And then defensively, it's just evolution of any NBA player. The more experience you have in the league, you figure out how to be more and more effective. It's just with his physical gifts, he's light years ahead of everyone else. If you go back and watch him in France before he came to the NBA, he was always playing hard on defense. He always cared on defense. And now that he's had a few years in the NBA under his belt, you're seeing all that come to fruition with his ability to be able to change games on that end of the floor as well.
All right, but this is where, Matt, like so many people will come in, and this is what we always do. Well, we haven't seen it in the playoffs. Like, that's what everybody says. We haven't seen it in the playoffs. So this Spurs team, given we haven't seen it in the playoffs, what's the ceiling for this team as constructed this year?
I think they could win the championship. I mean, I'm not going to say anything earth-shattering. A lot of people probably think that. They were very successful against the best team in the league and the defending champs, Oklahoma City, in the regular season. And that was with Wemby on minutes restrictions. So now you can fully unleash him in a 7-game series, assuming those two teams meet up in the conference finals, which I'm sure everyone is rooting for. But to your point, they don't have the experience. They have to get there first. And I think playoff experience is important. The one thing I'll say about the Spurs team is they're a great vibes team. It feels like they have awesome chemistry. Everybody loves being around each other, playing with each other, playing for each other. They play together, and that goes a long way come playoffs, regardless of experience.
Kind of staying with that theme in terms of the vibes. This is a team that ranks in the top 3 in both scoring on offense and also on defense. And last year they were kind of in the 20s. But apart from Wembanyama, what do you think's made this team gel together so quickly and work together so quickly? What goes along with those vibes?
It starts with the coaching staff and Mitch, and establishing and carrying on the Spurs culture, which has been an important part of the organization's sustained success. I know they had some down years, but it was to build up to this moment. It paid off. They got Wemby, they got Castle, they got Harper Jr. So now they got the talent, and they're still building. Their cap sheet's good. They have picks. They have lots of flexibility to keep getting better moving forward, which is kind of scary, but also needed when you look at Oklahoma City being in the same position. And the thing, like, for me, like, in playoffs, one of the important parts of playoff success is like having a lot of different guys who could give you a game, right? Like, they might not give you 25 every single night, but if you have like some supporting characters who maybe 1 or 2 games in a series could give you 20, 25 and be that X factor that makes the difference between winning and losing, that's the difference in swinging a series, in advancing or not. And I feel like the Spurs have a bunch of guys like that. You know, Harper off the bench, Keldon Johnson can give you a game, Devin Vassell can give you a game, Cornette, I know he's pretty steady, but on occasion could give you a game. So they've done a good job building the roster with guys that can fill a role, but then once in a while go off, and come playoff time, that, like I said, that's the difference between winning and losing.
Let's talk about another team that you know incredibly well because you're part of the studio team around the Raptors. They are locked into a first-round series against Cleveland. How are we feeling about Raptors-Cavs?
I mean, for the Raptors, I think it's a great step in the right direction to not just make the playoffs, but finish in the top 6. Thank you, Celtics deep bench, for giving the Raps an assist with that huge win over Orlando, bumping them up to that 5 seed. I would have felt a lot worse if Raps were in the 6 seed and had to play the Knicks, who blew them out 5 times in the regular season. The Raps were 3-0 against Cleveland. All 3 games came early, very early in the season, pre-trade deadline. Guys were injured. Obviously, the Cavs had a much different looking team. So I don't think you can take a ton away from regular season matchups. But what you can take is the psychological difference of playing the Knicks, who blew you out 5 times. And you probably go into that series like, oh man, like I don't know how much of a chance we have, versus the Cavs, where at least you beat them and you go in probably with a little bit more confidence that you can make this a series. That being said, obviously, I think the Cavs are a better team, a more experienced team. But, the Raps, going back to what we were talking about with the Spurs, don't have a lot of playoff experience. And it's going to be a great learning experience for them to be able to go into this environment, see what the real season's all about, playing under that type of microscope pressure, learning the flow of a 7-game series. It's all additive for this team, I think, just to be in the playoffs and get this experience.
Another guy in these playoffs who has some of that playoff experience, that seasoning, is your former teammate, Kawhi Leonard. He's leading the Clippers in this desperate fight in the play-in game tonight against the Warriors. And then we'll see if they get a chance to qualify for a chance to play OKC in that intimidating squad. But what is it about Kawhi and the way that he leads these teams that you could possibly see the Clippers doing some damage against OKC if they make it that far?
I mean, Kawhi, he's kind of like a Terminator, in my opinion. I don't know if I'm aging myself, if Terminator is still a relevant movie, but like you cannot rattle that dude. Like, he comes in, gets his work done the same every single day, and then goes in the game and does the same thing. And it's crazy. Like, he doesn't do anything like super explosive. He just gets to his spots and then uses his frame, his strength to do what he has to do to be able to get that shot off. And you can come within half an inch, a millimeter of blocking it, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't change his focus. If it's going in, it's going in. Whereas, like, I feel like with other guys, if you heavily contest them, you're like, oh, that shot's definitely not going in. That does not seem to rattle him at all with his shot selection. And then additionally, this season, he's added getting fouled. When you watch him play, he's really done a good job understanding if a guy's in a legal guarding position or not, and then initiating that contact to get to the free throw line. So he's added that as well. So, he's going to the hoop. If he just gets half a step on you, like I said, it's over because he's so strong. He's got that frame, and he's going to keep you there and draw that foul or finish or stop and pop, and you think you have him guarded, but you don't. And he does it consistently night in and night out. You add the defensive buy-in, which I think has declined a little bit in his age, but he can still turn it on when he needs to. And as a result, any team with him on it has a chance to win. He's proven that throughout his entire career. 2 finals MVPs with 2 different teams. And if he can stay healthy, regardless of the Clippers being sellers at the trade deadline, I think that team is no one wants to see him, mainly because of that guy.
It's great stuff from Matt Bonner. Matt, we appreciate your time, appreciate your insights. Thanks so much for hanging out with us this morning.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff from Matt as we continue to get you ready for the NBA playoffs. We'll get back to the NBA playoffs, but coming up, some big college basketball news we'll tell you about next.
Two in motion, quarterback drops back, looks, throws the ball wide open over the middle. Oh, what a hit and what an interception. Huge defensive play. Absolutely beast mode. Jaden Rowe able to get the pick, and we have our first turnover of the game.
He used his head. Well, a tip drill to his teammate off his head.
If all of this can be electronically called in split seconds, why even have a human back there?
I don't think we get to a point where no humans are officiating the game out there at all, because someone has to give the immediate signal right away so everybody can see it. Now, technology is an amazing thing. Things continue to improve day in and day out and get better and faster and quicker. So never say never, but it's going to be a while before I think that happens.
I was super proud of Gable's fight. I think that Gable really showed tonight that he is going to be great. There's several questions that we got answered. What is he going to do when he gets hit? That was the big one. Everybody's asking it. All the coaches are looking at it. Gable took a spinning heel kick to the jaw and went like this. Nothing. No, he didn't get out of the process. As a matter of fact, he went right back in that guy's face. So that answers a huge question. Also takes away another avenue to victory that all his future opponents will be looking at.
You just finished a massive tour visiting 20 different countries across Africa. What inspired you to do it?
As a kid, I always loved to travel, and as a kid, I wasn't able to travel. And I was always just deeply involved in culture. I kind of realized that back in history class. I was just like, what? Huh? You know what? Huh? And plus, I'm from Africa. I got to go back. That's the motherland.
Some big transfer news in college basketball. Virginia Tech transfer guard Deni Avdija is committed to North Carolina. Joe Tipton reported it first. Remember, he averaged 12.1 points, 4.6 assists per game last year with Virginia Tech, and now he becomes the first to commit to North Carolina in the Mike Malone era. And that's why I think this is interesting, right, Coley? Because we wondered if European players would want to go work for Malone because of his development relationship with Jokic, and now all of a sudden, quickly, we find that to be the case. This feels like maybe some instant payoff for the Tar Heels, doesn't it?
It does. My actual initial reaction to this is that this is really good for Avdija. You know, this is a player who's 6'9", a guard who can handle, who can shoot, who can dribble, who can dish. In some ways, kind of has his own game mimic a little bit of what Jokic can do. I'm not saying by any means that he is a Jokic comparison, but he's got a little bit of a game that mimics some of what he can do. So for Mike Malone, this is a great pickup. This is also a pickup that he can certainly mold. And I think for Avdija, he looks at this as an opportunity to learn from the guy who helped to really vault Nikola Jokic's career. So Avdija is, of course, from Greece. a star player over there comes here to Virginia Tech and has a pretty nice season last year, just averaged just over 12 points, 4.6 assists as a freshman just a year ago. So we'll see what this does. I do feel like it gives that opportunity for other European players who are coming to the States and beginning to play more and more in college before trying to get into the NBA. I think this is going to give them that framework, that frame of reference of, hey, maybe this is a program that I could go to. Now, does this make UNC an immediate really good program? Is this going to make UNC a team that goes much further than it went this past year in the NCAA tournament? Maybe. I'm not thinking that it's going to be that immediate. I feel like this is one of those things that might take a little bit of time for Malone to really put his stamp on what this program can be in terms of bringing in these types of international players. But again, he's got such a track record, not just with Jokic, but also with the Serbian national team. Mike Malone is a consultant for them as well. So he has had his imprint and his handprint in European basketball for a long time. And this is just going to be one of those other moves that certainly could play out for him and for the development of the UNC basketball program. But again, my initial read is that for players like Avdija, who have some of that skill set, this is a real chance to grow, learn, and potentially vault your own draft status and draft stock when that time comes.
I look at all of this and say, this is great. This is a great moment for North Carolina. That's all it is. Because I will remind everybody that A.J. DeBonta was supposed to be the can't miss, and he was. A.J. DeBonta is can't miss. BYU didn't win the national championship this year last time I checked. Booz is can't miss for Duke, and he was, and Duke didn't win the national championship. Peterson was supposed to be an absolute god for the iconic program of Kansas. Kansas didn't win the national championship. Maybe you loved Acuff. Arkansas didn't win the national championship, and the only thing the North Carolina fans will ever perceive as success is national championship. So yeah, it's a good signing. It's a big transfer. It's a good get. Does it mean absolutely anything towards the long-term future of North Carolina? Not unless they get a bunch of these. This is one piece out of many pieces that have to come together, but I'll give Malone a lot of credit. That is a piece. Now let's see if this is just a moment or if this is part of a sustainable new era at North Carolina. Also, staying in the ACC, Louisville picked up both the top-ranked transfer targets in Flory Badunga from Kansas and another star, Shellstead from Oregon. Do we like the idea of those two teaming up to bring the Cards to national title contenders?
I don't know about national title contenders again right now. I feel like when you're talking about transfers and especially new programs, this is, again, we're going into the third season now for Coach Pat Kelsey, and I would like to see a little bit more time for maybe this set of players to really allow that to happen, to be a national championship contender. That being said, I do think that this is a team that could go on Elite Eight runs, Sweet 16 runs coming up here soon, maybe a little bit deeper. And the reason I say that is because just 2 years ago, before Pat Kelsey came over and became the head coach, they had just combined for 12 wins across 2 seasons, yet he's actually already led this team to back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances since his arrival. So I do think that this is going to make a really good program that much better. You're talking about, obviously, the top transfer portal piece in basketball coming in. That's going to raise a lot of flags, raise a lot of alarms, especially in the ACC, a conference that, although it's maybe slipped, you could argue, in the last couple of years in terms of its nature of prominence, it still has that overall prominence within the scope of college basketball. And this is a Louisville team that, again, I don't know if I could say that this is going to make them a national title contender next year, but I think that the blueprint is there. We do talk about the transfer portal. We saw Michigan last year pulling its entire starting 5 from other places, from other schools, and here we are. They're the national champions for this past season. So it looks like Pat Kelsey has the right framework, has the right game plan and blueprint to go about this, but I just personally don't know if I can quite call Louisville a national championship contender unless there are other pieces to go who are also in this top 10, top 20 type transfer window. And if we start to see one more piece like those come in, maybe I change my tune. But at the very least, this is a team that should certainly improve upon just its NCAA tournament appearance from this past season.
I love the idea of two guys that are rep by the same agency making their announcement together, especially in a year where the incoming high school class is not considered to be necessarily that stellar. Attacking the transfer portal makes sense. This is new modern college basketball. You have more and more guys that, whether they played together in AAU, whether they got to know each other over the years, or whether they just want to play together. I think that's glorious, frankly. Like, one of the beautiful things in our business is that sometimes every once in a while you get to pick who you like working with on different shows. That's great. Like, friends working together makes for a better show. Friends playing basketball together makes for a better team. I genuinely look at all of this and say, man, I think the more and more we see of guys that are rep by the same agency that know each other, the more I think we are going to see guys that are sitting down having conversations together saying, hey, where do we want to play together that can be the most fun, we can still make our money, and we can win the most? So this big moment for Louisville, obviously, just the beginning of it. While we're talking college basketball, though, on a more somber note, the legendary Dick Vitale has announced that his cancer has returned. However, he said, quote, I'm 4 for 4 and I'm fully confident I'm going to make it 5 for 5 in reference to the number of times that he's beat cancer. We both had the opportunity to work around Dickie V. I never really knew him in person, Coley, but I know you did. What's your favorite Dick Vitale story?
Oh, man, I guess it's this. It goes to the fact that a lot of people probably don't know, at least a lot of people outside of Florida probably don't know, that Dick Vitale is a true sports fan, and it's not just college basketball. He lives kind of in the Suncoast area of Florida, and so he's a big Tampa Bay Rays fan. And a few years ago, I was working with, while I was working with ESPN, we were broadcasting the Wild Card Series. There's 2023. Rangers at Rays, and Dick Vitale wanted my picture. I was the dugout reporter for that series. I'm walking around the field in between innings. I think it was probably between the 4th and 5th inning, somewhere in there. And I see somebody trying to get my attention, and it was Dick Vitale. And mind you, of course, I know who he is. I have no sense that Dick Vitale actually knew who I was. And sure enough, he waved me down, and you see the picture on the screen. He literally wanted that picture. He wanted that selfie with him standing there in the stands just behind home plate next to the Rangers dugout and me on the field. And it was awesome. It really tickled me because, again, I didn't think he knew who I was, but that speaks to the level of kindness that he has. He pays attention to everything all over sports, not just college basketball. He's a big baseball fan too. And this picture, mind you, this was just after he had actually had surgery when he had cancer on his vocal cord. So he wasn't actually able to speak. We were able to communicate and, later exchange phone numbers. And, he ended up sending me this picture and we traded a few text messages. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I certainly always think about Dick Vitale in moments like this. I think about that picture and that moment all the time. Is clearly my favorite memory from that entire series being in Tampa was being shouted, or not shouted out, but being waved at by Dick Vitale and having a moment to take that picture. Dick, we're really pulling for you. We know, like you said, you're about to go 5 for 5, and I just can't wait to see Dick get on the other side of this particular moment that he's continuing to deal through.
Yeah, his strength is incredible, and the way he's impacted people, fans, and people in this business alike is absolutely. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's one of the most incredible things in my experience working at ESPN, where how many of the legends were just legendary people off camera also. So incredible moment. Like you said, our thoughts and prayers go out to Dick and his entire family as he gets ready for this fight again. But if there's anything we all know about Dick Vitale, is there's no fight in the world he's not ready for. So he will give it everything as he always does. Go ahead,
and guess what, Fitz? He's awesome, baby. So he's got this.
Oh, look at that. That's awesome. All right, we're going to keep the talk coming. We'll get back to college basketball later, but coming up next, we got to take a look at all things Knicks with the man, myth, and legend himself, HAHN, joining the show.
See the snap.
Jerome to throw, and that's caught. Demonstreet goes up and gets it, and it'll be 1st and goal for New Mexico.
Demonstreet's having a day.
1st and goal. Johnson on the keeper, and he'll throw it up, and Jefferson's got it. Touchdown, New Mexico. How do you like that?
Well,
Cade Klubnik, like, you can see something. I just feel like he does enough where it's like he can move around okay. I like the accuracy. I don't think he's like a special decision maker, but I don't think he's like a complete moron either, and he'll push it a little bit. Like, he just, if I'm trying to find a guy who can, like, we just want a capable backup in the 5th or 6th round, he's probably the only guy left that I like in that mold.
What are some things about the Detroit Pistons that we on the outside might not know?
The culture, when I walked into this, the culture for me was pretty impressive. The way the players kind of come to bat for each other. And, Isaiah Stewart is not a guy off the court that is like an angry human being. In that Charlotte game, it was all he was saying in the locker room was like, I'm going to have you guys back. That's what I do. For me, it's impressive to see just how together everyone is and, the culture that they've continued to build.
Also got a rushing touchdown. Gonna run it to Brown. Flea flicker. Back to Myler. Under pressure. Myler throws it late. Brown. And Brown, the stiff arm, crosses the midfield. Down the far boards. Brown for the end zone. Waltzes in for the Rattlers touchdown.
That's the MVP throwing to the offensive rookie of the year right there.
So Brown took the handoff, flipped it back, and then he found space.
The Knicks have finished the season 53-29. They have a 57.8 winning percentage in their 6 full seasons under team president Leon Rose. That's the highest winning percentage over a 6-year span since 1995-96 to 2000-2001. That is wild success, even if it doesn't always feel like it for Knicks fans. For more on this, we welcome in from ESPN MSG NBA reporter Alan Hahn joining us. Hahn, okay, let's talk about success, because a year ago the Knicks fired everybody because it wasn't successful enough. Right now, what are the expectations for this year's Knicks team going into this year's playoffs?
Well, when you fire a coach who won 51 games, back-to-back 50-win seasons, and they get to a conference finals, it's got to feel like we need now to take the next step. Advance the cause is the phrase I like to use all the time, because that's what every organization's trying to do. And when you feel like you've hit a ceiling with a coach and you move on to another coach, obviously the expectations are to take it a next step. And that next step would be out of the conference finals. Of course, that would be the first appearance in the NBA finals in over 25 years. That is the goal. That is what they're trying to do here. Expectations, however, changed from day one of the season to now, mostly based on the fact that the Boston Celtics were the only ones that didn't know they were supposed to take a gap year this year, with Jason Tatum out for what was expected to be the whole year, and a lot of veteran players and key pieces of their championship team moving on. But no one told them that. And so they still, to me, are the class of the East, and they got to get through them. And if they get out of the first round, they'll see them in the second round. And that, of course, as you know, New York, Boston will be epic.
Yeah, considering that, would anything short of a finals appearance then be considered a successful season for the Knicks?
That's a great question. And it's hard to answer because I think it depends on what it looks like. If you fall short in a 7-game battle in the conference finals, I think a lot of times you just kind of salute, tip your cap. We spend way too much time here in New York romancing about the 90s and how wonderful they were and how epic those teams were. And I always like to remind people, because I lived through them, that team rarely got out of the second round. And when they did, only twice got to the NBA finals, won the conference. So there were a lot of heartbreaks through that long 14-year run with Patrick Ewing, where they were in the playoffs every year, but running into, whether it's Michael Jordan or whether it's David Stern making a rule about coming off the bench for fighting, there was always something getting in the way, or Reggie Miller, of course. It's got to look a certain way, but I do think there will be a lot of disappointment if they don't reach the NBA Finals this year, because the window for this team is right now. And there aren't many years after this that you could say the window stays open, because this core is now heading into their 30s. 28, 29, and 30 are the ages of these guys right now. So it's really got to be right now.
Sometimes when I'm flipping, because I watch you on Get Up all the time, right? So, Hahn, sometimes I flip on Get Up, and you would think that the Knicks are just absolutely world beaters. And then other days I'll get on Get Up, and you'd think that the Knicks are the Kings. So why has it been such a, at least in some ways, an inconsistent season for the Knicks?
Welcome to the roller coaster that is day-to-day Knicks coverage, of course. And, we do have Stephen A. waiting for us at 10 a.m. on First Take, and he's always ready to ride that roller coaster of emotion. One day it's orange and blue skies. The next day, this guy's a bum and that guy's a bum. That is the typical New York emotion, because I ran into a guy in Penn Station a couple of weeks ago, and this is a true story. And I'm just walking through. Somebody stops me, and a lot of times people want to talk Knicks, of course, and you always want to oblige. And this guy was very serious, and he stopped me and he goes, "I think we've got a problem." I go, "What's the problem?" And he said, "We've got a Jalen Brunson problem." And I said, "Sir, there's a lot of problems in this world. Jalen Brunson and the Knicks is not one of them. But you see what happens with people. It was because he had sat out a game, and the Knicks had 30-something assists and passed the ball around them, and he took that to mean they might be better without him." And I'm thinking to myself, this is one of the best players they've had since Patrick Ewing. I mean, he's right there with Carmelo Anthony since Patrick Ewing, maybe even a step above with the success he's had in the postseason. And yet that's how fans are. That's how people think with this team, because it really is an all or nothing feeling when you've been waiting over 50 years to win a championship. So there is that feeling, but the team has earned it. They have earned it, because they started out 23-9, which is a terrific beginning with a new coach. Then they won the NBA Cup, which, as you know, nobody hung a banner, there's no 7th Avenue celebrations like everybody thought there'd be. But there was a sense of, okay, that's a good accomplishment. Then they went into that post-NBA Cup malaise that we've seen other teams do, where they went through a 2-9 slide over 11 games. They finished the season, I believe, 30-18 or something like that since that point. So, they've had one bad pocket, but because of some of the performances where it doesn't look right, it doesn't look championship level, I think there's just this concern that this is a really good team, but we aren't convinced yet they are good to take out Boston or take out Oklahoma City if they have to meet one day in the playoffs. I think that's the biggest concern, is that there's this level where the true championship contenders are, and then there's this next tier, and the Knicks are trying to punch their way into that higher level. They've got to do it. Starts Saturday night.
Yeah, to that end, Alan, how much pressure do you think the Knicks are under this postseason compared to other teams?
You put that jersey on, it's heavier than any other jersey in the league, because of the city you play in and because of the stage you play on. Name me another building in any sport where the opposing team gets up to play there, where star players who are load managing anywhere else, "Oh no, I'm good, I can play tonight." Like that. There's no other place that has that. So you're always getting the other team's best. You're always getting the other star's best. And that's why it's just a little bit harder. Now, I understand. In Boston, there's expectations to win all the time. In LA, there's expectations to win all the time. I totally get it. But where else is the opponent walking in, getting the same amount of vibe playing in the building as you do? Normally, the home team has got that. They benefit from it. But in this building, in Madison Square Garden, both teams have. And that's, I think, what makes it a little more difficult. Now, when the Knicks are winning in that building, there's nothing like it. It literally does shake. I don't know if you guys have ever been on the 5th floor at the Garden, which is the court level. But it does. I've stood on the court, and it levitates. It does this when it gets loud enough and the crowd is really going. It's unreal. Phil Jackson talked about it when he was head coach of the Bulls back in the 90s. So there's something different about the building, but all the expectations, the anticipation, the passion, the desire, the desperation, all of it is why, if they win Saturday night, book it, there'll be NYPD on 7th Avenue, understanding that, folks, the road's closed for about 10 minutes so the Knicks fans can enjoy a playoff win. It's become a tradition, even after just one win in the first round. It's just what they do.
HAHN, I will tell you the worst. People always ask me the worst show I ever played in my entire professional career as a musician. It was Madison Square Garden. And it was because two reasons. I used to go to the Garden all the time as a kid. So playing it was an emotional experience for me. But I could never control the adrenaline. And the thing that you're talking about, the shake, like everything felt weird on stage. I never got like the worst professional show I ever played from my standpoint. Like the worst I ever played for money was in Madison Square Garden. But
was it because were you rattled? Like, I'm trying to figure this out because I would think 100%. The adrenaline would have just sent you to another level.
Yeah, the problem is like when you're a musician, you got to stay locked in, right? Like timing matters. So you got this metronome in your ear that's doing this over and over again, but you've got so much adrenaline, you're trying to play so like you're just playing too fast. It's like being a musician when you can't control adrenaline is like being a runner that doesn't understand the marathon versus the sprint. And I never got I never got to understand. I got my ass kicked by Madison Square Garden. That is a 100% true story. But it's tattooed on my arm because of it. I'll never forget that. All right, let me ask you a point blank Knicks question. Tom Thibodeau was fired for not reaching the finals, as we talked about. Are they a better team today with Mike Brown as a coach than they would be if Tom Thibodeau was still their coach?
They're a different, way different team, and they've had to adjust throughout the year. I would argue they're kind of the same team. You know, they won 2 more games than they did the previous year. They got at the beginning of the season, they were trying to, Mike Brown came in and had this idea with the offense that he wanted to run more up tempo, a little more Golden State, wanted to use Brunson off the ball and take pressure off of him off the ball. And for the beginning of the season, they had this offense that was one of the actually they finished 3rd in the league in offense. So they had a great offense all season. But in the very beginning of the season, they were averaging over 120 a game, and they were just, you know, it was an insane offense. But it wasn't physically sustainable for the group they had. They, as I mentioned, they hit a wall midway through the year. And defensively, they suffered from a lot of the things that they were doing. Then they had to have a meeting of the minds and say, okay, well, we can't be ranked 18th in defense and think we're going to win a championship. So the credit I'll give to Mike Brown that is different from Tom Thibodeau is Mike Brown was a little more inclusive with, all right, guys, what do you want to do? You know, like not this is what we're doing and just get better at it. He was, let's talk it out. You guys are vets. You've been in the league a long time. What do you guys think we should be doing? And they made some adjustments. They fixed some things defensively. And I think they were 6th they finished in defense. From 18 to 6 is pretty damn good. And at some points, they were 5 or 4th, as high as that. And then more changes came later in the year with Karl-Anthony Towns just still not feeling part of things, is that then Mike Brown said, okay, well then what do you need to feel comfortable, be more involved? What can we do? And they started adjusting after the All-Star break with him. And the last week or so, they unveiled this new wrinkle, which took the 2 stars, Brunson and Towns, put them together at the top of the offense and had them run pistol, pick and roll, and a lot of options off of it. And I'm telling you, it looked really interesting. And Karl-Anthony Towns, I have not seen him this happy as a Knick. Like he was, and it's not like he's getting 20 shots. He was averaging 12 shots a game. It's not a lot of shots, but there was something about him being involved. So when I say they're different, they're very much the same because the talent is still the same and their abilities are the same, but they're different in that there's a lot more inclusivity with the group and the coaching and the adjustments they make versus last year and the years before where it was Tom Thibodeau and he had the structure and the structure was everything they stood by and stayed with. That after a couple of years, clearly at the end of last season, it just, the players started to want more or want change. So that's what I'm looking for in the playoffs now is how do these adjustments impact and how does Brown's ability to talk to his players, take input, admit fault, hey, you know what, I was wrong here. And as the playoffs go on, adjust it because you know teams already know what you're doing. You have to be able to adjust to how they stop you.
You know, I'm glad that you mentioned Karl-Anthony Towns. I was going to ask you a little bit about him. I'm sure that when people come up to you at Penn Station, they're not just always asking you about Brunson. They're probably also asking you about Cat and what's going on with him. But when you see this happiness, this difference in him since employing this this new scheme, what does that look like to you? What have you noticed out of him that shows some of that happiness right now?
Playmaking. You know, he told me he wears 32, his father's number in college, but it's also Magic Johnson. And he fancies himself. First of all, when you watch him play, you realize that he's not a true big man. He's a guard trapped in a big man's body. Like he loves to play the crossover dribble. He'll turn and face more than he wants to post up. And he loves to pass. And not just, you know, chest pass fundamental stuff, which would be nice every now and then. But he loves the Rucker Park, one hand over the head, behind my head, behind the back, spin it, the bounce pass spin on a cutter. Like, he likes to put a little bit of sauce on some of his passes because I think he just loves feeling like he can play and be a playmaker at the top of the offense every now and then. Not to say that he thinks he's like Jokic, but I think he feels he's closer to what Jokic can do more than anybody wants to give him credit for. And that's the other thing that stood out to me in these last couple of games. He's averaging, I think, over 6 assists a game or something like that, 5 or 6 assists. So that's, I think, the happiness part. A lot of people think star players get upset because they're not getting shots. For him, it was just being involved in the offense instead of off to the side as a spacer or, just get down low and post up. Guys like him just want to, I want to touch the basketball every possession early in the game so I feel involved. And then to his credit, he was realizing, okay, another way I can be more involved and get more shots is to rebound the basketball, offensive rebound the basketball. And, I don't think he gets enough credit for how much of a beast he is on the boards. He finished second in the league in rebounding. He led the league in rebounding for about half the season. His offensive rebounding is excellent. And, people talk so much about him being a little too much finesse. When you watch him rebound, I'm telling you guys, he's a beast on the boards when he wants to be. And for the better half of the season, and especially after the All-Star break, you really saw it in key moments. And I think that's going to be another important thing in the playoffs, and especially in the series against Atlanta.
Hunker down, get some rest, my friend. You guys can check him out all across ESPN. It's going to be a wild postseason. You can also watch him on MSG. Always appreciate you hanging out. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for the Knicks insight. When they end up in the NBA Finals, come back and tell us how they got there.
I promise. I will. Thanks, guys. Good to see you guys. Good to see you, Fitz.
Great stuff, as always, from Alan Hahn. We'll get back to the NBA, but coming up next, we got Cowboys rumors, and the trades, and the draft, I should say, is a week away. We'll tell you about it.
If you're a team that needs a left tackle, would you be concerned that this seemingly is a right tackle draft?
Concern, no, because you got to have a plan for it. And this is where your area scouts and the forecasting of what's coming out in the draft is important, and understanding that. I want to go back to CeCe Mauanoa that you talked about. I think his overall stock is up for me because I'm feeling like now, if you have CeCe Mauanoa on your team, now he gives you the ability to put your best 5 on the field, whether he's your right tackle or he's your guard.
We're going to give you a name. You tell us whether it's a real college athlete or if our producers just made it up out of thin air. Okay, so collegian or concoction. The first one we'll give you is Fat Brooks. Now, for clarity, Fat is P-H-A-T.
That is a concoction.
That's a collegian. He's a guard for Central Michigan.
Fat Brooks.
Fat Brooks, yes.
Cook sends it away. Josiah King takes it deep in his own end zone. King across the 10. King across midfield, beats Cook, and King gonna dance into the end zone. Touchdown.
Playing Russian roulette there. I mean, how many times are you gonna just kick right to him? Look at that. Who wants to run in front of that? That's 5'11", 220 pounds, and all thighs. I mean, no one's gonna try to go low on him.
Who is your first player to team fit that you absolutely love?
Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end of Oregon, to the Chiefs. And this was basically a post-combine reaction, basically Vernon Davis style numbers athletically. And so I think it was validating to see kind of him put those numbers up athletically, his speed, explosion, change of direction. He feels like a player that is not going to drop very far in this draft, especially in a draft where there aren't a ton of blue chip players.
The rumor mills are churning. We got more. There's a belief among teams at the top of the draft that the Cowboys, who have picks at 12 and 20, are a team to watch in trade-up scenarios, according to multiple league sources. That comes from Jordan Schultz, also noting that teams have said they believe Dallas is trying to target a player the Giants also cover. So moving up, and frankly, Mel Kiper's put out a mock draft this morning where he has a big trade up for the Dallas Cowboys. How do we feel about this, Coley? Good idea for Dallas to go big game hunting?
Yeah, it seems like it's a good idea. But first, I will caution people. This is the time of the year that we know as silly season in the NFL. We're about a week out of the draft, and the rumors start flying, the leaks start coming. Some of it is smoke and mirrors, and some of it is actual smoke where there is a fire. And I think in this case, this is one of those situations where this might actually be leading to something genuine, because the Cowboys, of course, at 12-20, they're a little further down in the first round than I'm sure Jerry Jones would like to be. And this is a team that, as you remember, just before last season, traded away Micah Parsons and never really got that true pass rush back in the weeks that followed after that. And so I think that Dallas is coveting a position like that. This is a draft where you have edge rushers for sure. You also have other offensive linemen, defensive linemen who are high in the draft board. And while there might be a pass rusher who's off the board, I'm thinking by the time the Cowboys actually could, whether they trade up or not, I think there's at least one guy who would be off the board. I can imagine that they would want to try to still sneak up and get whoever they could as a pass rush option. And most notably, I think that they do actually want to overtake two of the teams in their own division who have picks ahead of them, and that being the New York Giants, as Jordan's tweet just referenced, who are number 5, and then also the Commanders at number 7. If there's a trade partner that could allow them to leapfrog both of those teams, it would either be Tennessee at 4 or Cleveland at 6. And to me, Cleveland seems like the most logical partner for the Cowboys to actually trade with. That, of course, wouldn't get them beyond the Giants, but it would still get them at least in that mix and maybe getting one of those edge rushers who are certainly going to go high early in the first round.
Yeah, I think this is all so difficult for my brain to wrap around, because on the one hand, I look at it for all these teams we're talking about, like teams at the top of the draft, whether we're talking about the Raiders, Jets, Cardinals, Titans, Giants, Browns, Commanders, you see the list there. They all have something in common. They all suck. And I think it's important to remind you of that, because I'm a Raiders fan, right? I think we need some blunt honesty here. Your favorite team is picking at the top of the draft because you need star players. And the other side of this is your favorite team is picking at the top of the draft in large part because more often than not, they're not very good at drafting. Most of the time, teams that are terrible have mostly bad drafts. Now, the Browns last year had a great one. Let's see what it means for them moving forward. But to me, if you're a bad team, simplify this whole thing. I want the best player I can possibly get. I really don't care about position. I just need a great player. And I don't want to trade down because, yeah, that gives me more swings in it, but I'm historically bad at swinging, so why do I want more swings? I want the surest thing possible. There's just something about a bird in the hand here for these teams that are picking in the top 5 or 6. They historically suck all the time. So I think for those teams to move down in this draft, it's a bit of a mistake. That being said, if I'm the Cowboys and I can move up, I guess, yeah, but this is all going to make us continually look back at the Micah trade and say, was it worth it? So now you're going to package one of the picks you got for Micah with the pick you already have to try and move up to get somebody that can replace ... Micah. And the Cowboys also have to deal with plenty of cap issues. They've got to figure out how to pay George Pickens. They need cheap labor. So I think while it's sexy to say, oh my God, the Cowboys are going to trade up and they're going to get themselves a great draft pick, it's going to be huge. I think when you combine the fact that A, they're going to need a lot of depth on their starters overall as they try and pay people. B, they have 2 picks in the first round. C, I don't think it makes a ton of sense for teams to move down. I think this is Jerry using all of us in pawns in his popularity game. This is the reason we love talking about the Cowboys, because all Mel Kiper had to do was imply in his mock draft, all he did was say, I think the Cowboys are going to trade up to 6. And it made it the lead story on ESPN. ESPN loves it. Jerry loves it. The Cowboys love it. I don't love it, Coley. I'll be honest. I don't love it. I get it. I don't love it for the Cowboys. I don't love it for whoever they trade for.
But again, that's why I couched my answer right there, just saying this is silly season. And these rumors and speculation fly in large part just to see what can stick, so that maybe you talk a team out of possibly drafting whoever they do draft, so that player can slide down to you, whether you stay at 12 or you move up to 6 or whatever the case is. I certainly feel like that can happen. That might be a play, but I'm actually feeling that there is a little more fire to this smoke compared to the smoke and mirrors that we normally see this time of year. But I don't know.
Well, I think part of that is because there are some transcendent defensive players at the top of this draft, right? I think that's a big part of why I do look at it and say, okay, we know at this point that the Cowboys covet a defensive playmaker, right? All of us have got that figured out. And almost every single mock draft has somebody available at that level that is going to be an epic playmaker, depending on how far up they want to move. But if it's for Sonny Styles, if it's for Bailey, if it's whichever one of these defensive players that moves up, it feels like a pass rusher is going to be there for him. So we'll obviously keep you updated on that. We also want to get you updated from America's team to America's capital. Alexander Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals defeated the Blue Jackets in Columbus last night. Significant because it could be Ovi's final NHL game. He's repeatedly stated that he hasn't made a decision on his future in the NHL. Plans to take this summer to consider whether or not he'll return to play or not, but certainly even the players that have been facing him have been wondering if they need to say goodbye to Ovi on the ice. We talk a lot about LeBron. I just want to give a tip, Coley, to everything that Alex Ovechkin is doing at this advanced stage in the NHL still.
I mean, this is unreal. I mean, you see right here the tweet on the screen. At age 40, he played in all 82 games this season and led the team in points and goals. I mean, that is unreal. I mean, that is certainly a LeBron-esque type of performance for someone who was born in the mid 80s, a good time to be born. So my tip of the cap to Ovechkin for that. But also your point about him possibly not being retired, or at least wanting to wait until this summer to be retired, or to say whether he's going to be retired or not. That's something that's really struck a chord with me, because at times throughout this season, it felt like this was the swan song. You saw opposing teams trying to treat this as if this was the swan song. In fact, just the other day, the Penguins were all lining up to shake his hand as if this is the last time we're going to face you. And he waved them off saying, no, don't do that to me yet. And then, of course, he reiterates, I haven't decided anything on my future yet. I hope it's not my last game, as you see the quote right there from Tuesday night. You know, I don't know what to make of it. I think it's one of those things where I don't think that Ovi really has definitively made up his mind. But if he is leaning a certain way, he's probably leaning to coming back, because if he looked at this year, saw how well he played, made it through this season healthy, this regular season healthy, I think that he does stop and say, you know what? Let's give this another go. You know, we're not done yet. And that's one of the reasons why he's saying, hey, time out on singing my swan song. This thing hasn't actually concluded.
It's win-win for all of us that love hockey. It's either a win because we're going to get to see more of him, or it's a win as we get to say goodbye to somebody that absolutely left his mark on the game forever. From one great to another, coming up next, we will get back to the NBA. Dwight Howard going to join us. We'll get his thoughts on everything happening in the association coming up next.
Two in motion, quarterback drops back, looks, throws the ball wide open over the middle. Oh, what a hit and what an interception. Huge defensive play. Absolutely beast mode. Jaden Rowe able to get the pick, and we have our first turnover of the game.
He used his head. Well, a tip drill to his teammate off his head.
If all of this can be electronically called in split seconds, why even have a human back there?
I don't think we get to a point where no humans are officiating the game out there at all, because someone has to give the immediate signal right away so everybody can see it. Now, technology is an amazing thing. Things continue to improve day in and day out and get better and faster and quicker. So never say never, but it's going to be a while before I think that happens.
I was super proud of Gable's fight. I think that Gable really showed tonight that he is going to be great. There's several questions that we got answered. What is he going to do when he gets hit? That was the big one. Everybody's asking it. All the coaches are looking at it. Gable took a spinning heel kick to the jaw and went like this. Nothing. No, he didn't get out of the process. As a matter of fact, he went right back in that guy's face. So that answers a huge question. Also takes away another avenue to victory that all his future opponents will be looking at.
You just finished a massive tour visiting 20 different countries across Africa. What inspired you to do it?
As a kid, I always loved to travel, and as a kid, I wasn't able to travel. And I was always just deeply involved in culture. I kind of realized that back in history class. I was just like, what? Huh? You know what? Huh? And plus, I'm from Africa. I got to go back. That's the motherland.
Dwight Howard posted this after the Austin Reeves injury news. Superman won a title with the Lakers the last time they reached the finals. Let me know if you need me to come out of retirement. Boy, joined now by Superman, the first overall pick of the 2004 draft. Played nearly 2 decades in the league. NBA champion, 8-time All-Star, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Slam Dunk champion. All right, the resume's wild. I had to get it all out. I had to remind people exactly. But here's the question. If you got back on the court today for the Lakers, how many points could you give them?
0. Man, no, that was a joke. But if I was to play with Luka, I probably would get about 6 lobs a game. So I'll be all right. But retirement life is great. I just love being with the kids and just relaxing from nearly 2 decades of playing basketball, which is a very long time.
Yeah, very long time. Another guy who's played a long time is LeBron, and he's preparing to put this LA team back on his back because of some of the injuries. But with that one title that he already has with the Lakers, whatever happens with him this postseason, how do you still view his time in LA? Title or bust this year? How do you still view his time?
I mean, he's still the greatest. He's one of the greatest Lakers to ever play, and he's arguably top 2 NBA players of all time. So, what he's done in every jersey has been amazing. He's won a championship with one of the greatest franchises in history, so you have to give him his props. You have to give him his flowers because his longevity is the name of the game, and he's endured. He's been playing for 23 years, which hasn't been seen. It's a lot of factors that key into playing a long time, and he's been able to do it at a very high level. It just shows his commitment to the game. But also, I'm just thinking about as somebody who's played for a long time, and now that I'm not playing, what do you do afterwards? What do you do? And that's my mindset. Even with him, like our minds and everything has been dedicated on being the greatest at this sport. And he's played for so long. Like, what do you do? Like he's done invested in everything. He's done traveled everywhere. He's done did, the events for, schools, all these different things. It's like, what's next? Like, how do we move on from here? Because again, he came out of high school as well. So yeah, I just can't wait to see.
What do you think? What I was gonna just ask real quick. What do you think is next? What does that look like to you?
It's I think every player has had that time where they're like, do I want to be an analyst? Or I want to go talk about the game? But we played it for so long. Like, to talk about it again is like, But again, he's meant so much to, the sports world, to athletes all over for many generations. So, it's going to be tough to see him hang up the shoes and, have to retire from the game. But it's here for all of us. We have to do all that. And, hopefully his second life will be just as fun and just as interesting and just as great as his first life.
You mentioned he won a championship with the Lakers. All right, so first and foremost, I want to be clear with you, Dwight. I'm not there's a lot of fat guys like sitting there eating potato chips and put asterisks on titles. I am not one, okay? But that being said, I was just going to give you, AD said this. This is AD's quote. Did I really win a championship? You hear the noise. I know I'm listed as a champion, but it's like, I'm not sure. How do you look at a bubble championship when we talk about this legacy in the Lakers?
I feel like it's always being downplayed. Like every time you talk about the Lakers championship, they was in the bubble. It wasn't that hard. It was just easy. They gave them the trophy. Like, come on. Like, do you have to continue to hate this much? Like, we actually went out there and we competed at the highest level all season long. I think from the beginning of the season till the end of the season, it was clear that we were the best team in the NBA that season. And, it really sucks that we didn't get a chance to, one, have that championship parade, celebrate with our fans in LA. And also the ultimate thing was we didn't get a chance to go back and even try to do it again. That's what really probably irks a lot of the players. And I know AD probably feels the same way. Like, man, we didn't even get a chance to defend our throne. It was just like we got a chip and it was like, all right, move the hell on. We're going to get some more folks to play. But again, I'm very thankful for that opportunity because I was searching and going for that ring for, so many years. And to finally have that ring, it's just special.
Speaking of AD, now that he's on the Wizards, this report just came out yesterday where it said that Davis, quote, reiterated on Monday that he wants to have an in-depth conversation with the Wizards front office over the next few months to learn whether team officials have a concrete plan to compete for a championship next season or during the 27-28 season. So when a player wants to sit down with ownership that way, the front office that way, what are those conversations typically like? And do you think this is laying a groundwork for him wanting to go somewhere else?
Well, he's in a very pivotal position in his career. He's been plagued with some injuries. He's been on a few different teams the last couple of years, so he wants to be in a position to where, he can win. And can Washington win? That's the answer that I don't really want to say nothing about Washington bad, but, from their track history, in order for them to win, everyone's going to have to be healthy. And it starts with AD. If AD is healthy, everybody else will fall in line. But I just hope the best for him, man, and wonderful teammate. And just, wish their team well, man. It's a tough situation he's in, being in Washington.
You think he's going to play in Washington?
No. No. I mean, I want to be optimistic and say yes, but, I just think he's like, man, what am I doing here? You got all these young guys. I played in all these different places. I want to win now. He just went from L.A. to Dallas to Washington Wizards. And there's nothing wrong with being in Washington, D.C. I think it's a beautiful place. But each organization is different, and he probably just wants to be in the, he's getting older in his career, and at this point it's like, man, I don't want to waste time anymore. Time is the most valuable thing, especially as you get older in this league.
Well, speaking of your former teammates, Russ came out and said about the Kings, if I'm welcome back, I'll be back. So put your basketball analyst hat on for a second, because again, I think it's so hard. We just presume guys should walk away. Well, then what are you doing for your 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day, right? So I'm not trying to push Russ out of the game. But when you look at it, does he still have what it takes in your mind to be a valuable piece of an NBA team?
He does. But I just think a lot of times as we're getting older, I think sometimes our mindsets have to change, He's been playing for so long. And I think sometimes life or whatever just tries to, tell us what is actually needed. And, I feel like maybe it might be time. He's played for a long time. Everywhere he's been searching for, all these opportunities and stuff like that. But maybe it's time. Maybe it's time for him to, be with his family. It's very tough, to go and put your all into a team, all into a situation. You might not get minutes. You might get waived. Anything can happen in so many variables. And I think his legacy is cemented. I think now while he has the opportunity and the body and the ability to go and be with his family and kids and build them up, I think that, personally, that's what I feel like he should do. His basketball days, he's already shown who he is. He's one of the greatest point guards to ever play the game. And, just leave it there.
Speaking of legacy, I'm thinking about one of your other former teammates in James Harden, somebody you played with for a long time. Let's say that he and the Cavs win a ring this season. Where would that put him on your all-time list?
Ooh, that would boost him up for real, because you got some really good two guards in this league. And I don't know if I would consider him a two guard or a point guard. What is he considered to you guys? Because usually when he has the ball, he's the point guard. When he's the point guard, he's one of the coldest. I think when he turns into a shooting guard, it's easy. It's a little different game for him. But that point guard, James Harden, he get that MVP, that's going to skyrocket everything with him. He's already elite scorer, elite shooter, elite playmaker. But now adding that, ring to his resume,
That's interesting to me hearing you talk about it, because I struggle a lot with this, man, because it's a team sport and it takes so much luck to win a championship, realistically, right? Everything has to break right. So how are we supposed to take championships? Like, to me, if you're a great player, you're a great player. But like,
Right.
where
See,
does the championship
that's how we
factor in?
started this a long time ago. With you got to have rings, and now all these players have been searching for rings, and now players, I got to get a ring, I got to get a ring, and then they don't get a ring, they're depressed for the rest of their life. So we did this. We all did it. Asking players for more and more and more. When, man, if you made it to the NBA, that's one big step. That's a big step. It's a giant step to make it. To be an all-star is another giant step. To play for many, many years and be great at it is a big step. But James has been elite since he's been into the league. So he's one of the greatest players to ever play. So if he doesn't have a ring, it shouldn't really take away from his greatness. But in the world that we live in, if you don't have a ring, they're not going to be considered him as a Kobe Bryant, a Dwayne Wade, and stuff like that, which it isn't fair, but in the world that we live in, it's how it is. I don't know what y'all take on that, but it's crazy. Like, he should definitely be one of the best, considered one of the best point guards and shooting guards, because he can do both at a very high level. And so to take him off of that list or to drop him down because of a championship, like you said, you have a full team. You got everybody got to do their part. Everything matters in order to win a championship. So I hope that doesn't take away from his greatness.
Yeah, I just never want to live in a world where Craig Hodges was a better basketball player than Patrick Ewing. I'm sorry. I refuse. Like, I know that's an old man reference. I'm just saying Craig Hodges was not a better basketball player than Patrick Ewing. Like, Craig Hodges was not a better basketball player than Charles Barkley. Like, you could be a great player and just not get a ring. That's the hill I die on. All right, let's talk about one team that you know a ton about. Orlando, obviously, huge part of your history. You're a huge part of their history. This Magic squad, though, feels like there's some rumblings, maybe some rumors of some drama behind the scenes. Like, what needs to happen to get Orlando on the right track?
Somebody said Dwight is back in Orlando. I said, what? What did I do? But, it's a very, very tough situation dealing with, young star players and also you got a full team full of players that want to continue to get better, and it's very tough. You can't please everybody in this business. You can't please all 15 players. Everybody can't get what they want to get, whether it be minutes, points, it's very difficult. And maybe what they need to do is bring old White back down there. I'm ready, you guys. I don't have to play a minute, but I'm a good fan. And they might need a good old coach. And I'm young. I got my hair cut off now. Yeah, I can coach. Yeah.
It's you and me both. I want to ask you about another place that you played at, but specifically, I want to ask you about the Hawks here. They're looking pretty good. They're going up to New York. Yeah. We know what they've done in New York in the past when it comes to the playoffs. How likely is an upset in this particular series?
Ooh, if Cat don't show up, they might have an upset. But the Hawks, they have some good veterans, that's some good savvy vets, and they got a young team that can really push that pace. So I see this going 7 games and a good test for the Knicks, but I think the Knicks will win because they got some more experience. But the Hawks team, they're very dangerous. And I didn't know why Trey wanted to get traded from the Hawks. Like that, it was crazy to me, But again, I love the young core team. I love the savvy vets that they've added. I think Kuminga was a great pickup for the team. And, they're a sleeper. So the Knicks got to come out and play because if not, they'll be going home early. And a lot of Knicks fans will be mad.
Well, speaking of Atlanta, I got one more for you. And, you and I were talking before we got on during the break about just the area that we're both from, Southwest Atlanta. Of course, you a star at Southwest Christian Academy. We played baseball and basketball at Adams Park. We talked about Campbellton Road and all that. Another guy is from our area who's playing in the game right now, and that's Ant-Man.
Yes.
AE is from our area. Tell people about the SWAT and why it's so unique and so special, not just the basketball, but just in general.
It's so unique and so special because you have so much like character. You got so much energy coming from this area. Everybody, we're always joning on each other, talking, ragging on each other, making jokes. You know, we're always the life of the situation because we want to bring life into every situation. That's the South Side person for you. You want to bring the good vibes, the smiles, and, you know, the entertainment, but also we bring in the pain and the pressure. You watch AD, he's having a good time on the court, but when he attacks that basket, he's trying to tear down the rim. When he's going for his shots, he's trying to hit everything. So that's just who we are. You know, we have that dog mentality, but we from the country, are from Atlanta, so we gonna have us some fun. We gonna talk some trash, dunk on you, then run down the court and smile. You know, that's just an Atlanta, Southwest Atlanta thing, man. But I'm so proud of AE. He's doing an amazing job. Shout out to Adidas for keeping it right. And just hopefully he can keep it up, man. He's a young guy. This league is, you know, it's awesome for our players in order for them to grow. And I just hope he continues to grow and continue to be that dominant player that he is.
That dogging is part of why you won the Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. Before we get you out of here, we've asked you a lot about the league, but I got to ask you about Wemby. Right, like, because you're 6'10". Wemby's 6 inches taller than Dwight Howard, all right? When you watch him play, what do you see?
I see Wemby, I think he's going to be at least top 3 all time. Wow. I just love his since he came in the league, you know, I've been telling my son, he's growing into basketball, my youngest son, and I'm like, son, hopefully one day you'll be 7'5", like Wemby. Because I just watched Wemby. Like, he's an anomaly. He's like a real life alien. You know, he's 7'5". He can shoot threes. He can handle the basketball. I think he was the kid that was in the first Space Jam when Michael Jordan stretched his arm all the way back. That was Wemby. That was Wemby. That was not Jordan. That was Wemby. That was Wemby with Jordan's face. So I love Wemby. I think he has a chance to be one of the greatest. I love how he attacks the basket. He's ducking everything in the paint. But then if you stop that, he's turning around and he's fading right over the top of you, and you're not going to block it. So shout out to Wemby. I think the Spurs, they're my favorites to win the championship this year if he's healthy. And, go Wemby.
You guys can follow him on Twitter, X, at Dwight Howard. Dwight, it's just awesome talking to you, man. Thanks for just the years of enjoyment we've gotten to watch you do your thing. And thanks for hanging out with us. Your insights are incredible. You got to come back, hang out with us again. We appreciate you, bud.
Man, I would love
to talk Atlanta with
you
too.
Peace up, A-Town down. Hey, you got to go to Miss Winters, man. Get you a 3-wing snack and a biscuit and some sweet tea.
They don't know about the sweet tea.
They don't know about the sweet tea. All the sugar in the world is in that sweet tea. You're right.
Dwight, thanks for hanging out with us, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Peace and blessings. Y'all have a good one.
Dwight, just an absolutely electric personality. All right, coming up next, Coley's got some predictions to give us before we get out of here. Coming up next from all the sports landscape.
See the snap.
Jerome to throw, and that's caught. Demond Street goes up and gets it, and it'll be 1st and goal for New Mexico.
Demond Street's having a day.
1st and goal. Johnson on the keeper, and he'll throw it up, and Jefferson's got it. Touchdown, New Mexico. How do you like that?
Cade Klubnik, like, you can see something. I just feel like he does enough where it's like he can move around okay. I like the accuracy. I don't think he's like a special decision maker, but I don't think he's like a complete moron either, and he'll push it a little bit. Like, if I'm trying to find a guy who can, like, we just want a capable backup in the 5th or 6th round, he's probably the only guy left that I like in that mold.
What are some things about the Detroit Pistons that we on the outside might not know?
The culture when I walked into this, the culture for me was pretty impressive. The way the players kind of come to bat for each other. And, Isaiah Stewart is not a guy off the court that is like an angry human being. In that Charlotte game, it was all he was saying in the locker room was like, I'm going to have you guys back. That's what I do. For me, it's impressive to see just how together everyone is and, the culture that they've continued to build.
He's also got a rushing touchdown. Gonna run it to Brown, flea flicker, back to Myler, under pressure. Myler throws it late, Brown. And Brown, the stiff arm, crosses the midfield, down the far boards. Brown for the end zone, waltzes in for the Rattlers touchdown.
That's the MVP throwing to the offensive rookie of the year right there.
So Brown took the handoff, flipped it back, and then he found space.
Mac to Mac. Rory is going to defend his Masters title. He's going to win another green jacket. Look at that. See, he's already got the jacket on. So look at this. Our producers, everybody behind the scenes, great job. Already got the newspaper that you need to get on Monday. A 1:44 tee time today as Rory enters play, tied atop the leaderboard at 5 under.
That was on Friday. Before Rory had gone back-to-back, the Mac-to-Mac slow clap as Coley Harvey absolutely came in and slaughtered the headlines in the best of possible ways. Coley's been doing God's work, filling in all week. And Caroline Fenton out getting married over the weekend. So Caroline has been out, and she'll make her return tomorrow. So, Coley, this is our last time getting to hang out with you for a little bit. We're not going to do Monday headlines today because, Monday's too far away. We're going to do Coley Chronicle, all right? 3 headlines. We're letting you just rub the crystal ball, and then all of a sudden, it comes out clear. And what does Coley see in the Coley Chronicle? What do you got for me first?
Well, I think it's actually more like rub the top of my head. That's my crystal ball, right? But like Dwight, I didn't used to be like this, but hey, here we are. Anyway, in terms of what I've got, let's see. The first one, my first call is going to be the edge goes to Reese. I'm predicting the very first edge rusher to come off the board of the NFL draft is going to be Arvell Reese. I just really like this guy. We talked earlier in the show about all the edge rushers that the Cowboys might be looking at. This guy, to me, is going to be the very first one to go off the board, and most likely he's going to end up going to the Jets there at number 2.
Yeah, I love this call by you, and I understand that we fell in love with David Bailey during the combine because people love, numbers, and people love sort of some of the measurables word I was looking for. But Arvell Reese is somebody that if we go all the way back to the end of college football season and everybody said who should be the first defensive player off the board, for me it's always been, well, if you're looking for an edge rusher, it's going to be Arvell Reese. If you're looking for something else on the defense, it's going to be Caleb Downs. So I love the concept all the way back to then of Arvell Reese at number 2. I think sometimes we let the process overcomplicate simple things, and this is just simple. Go back and watch his tape. Just watch the difference he makes over and over and over again. There aren't a lot of sure things in this draft, but I think Arvell Reese has every one of the measurables to do that. So I love you are 1 for 1 so far. I agree with that completely. What do you have for your next headline, sir?
All right, the next headline coming from the head is going to be, here we go, Houston, we've got a LeBroblem. And I love the way that we problem. The Lakers are going to go up 2-0 over Houston. And this is a tough pick because we look at this series. I think this is going to be one of the more interesting series to watch in the West. The Rockets obviously have had, a good enough sin. KD, LeBron, that is going to be a storyline. LeBron, of course, coming into this without the likes of Luka Doncic, who still is coming back from that hamstring injury. We'll see if he actually appears at some point in this series. But for now, I'm thinking that LeBron puts this team on his shoulders and he carries the Lakers to a 2-0 start to get the series going. I think that's going to take us to about 4/24, April 24th. I think that's about right. So we'll call it 2-0.
You have lost your mind. This is the first time that, look, I'm buying the newspaper though. Like, you've done a great job. I'm buying the newspaper because I'm like, oh, dude, what's Coley written for me? I got to buy the Chronicle to see how we get here. I just think maybe it should be called the Coley Chronic on this one instead of Chronicle. I'm out on Houston. We all know I'm out on Houston, but the concept of going up 2-0 for a beat up, banged up Lakers team, that would be such a fail for the Rockets. I just can't see it. Even though I think the Rockets are fraudulent, I cannot stress that enough in case I haven't made it clear to everybody how I feel about the Rockets. I do not believe the Houston Rockets will win a series in the playoffs. That being said, going up 2-0 with just LeBron, that's just like, now all of a sudden you're going to tell me that Bronny goes off for double digits in a game, and all of a sudden we have total and mass chaos, dogs and cats living together. You got one more headline for us. Give me one more headline that you love seeing coming in.
One more. Let's see. What do we got here? We got Acuna Matata. There are no worries in ATL. I really hope that we're seeing this headline in October. By the way, whoever came up with Acuna Matata, I wish I could take credit. It wasn't me. One of our producers came up with that. Amazing job. That is awesome. But this is me saying that the Braves are going to have a 5-game lead on the rest of the NL East by the time we get to April 24th. So that's 9 days from now. They're going to have a 5-game lead on the NL East. And the reason why I say they're going to have a lead on the NL East at that point, at that extreme, is because they're playing teams in the division right now. They've got one more against the Marlins today. They've got the Phillies coming up. They also have the Nationals coming up, and then one more series with the Phillies. So a whole string of games. I think at this stage is about 9 more left in the division. I think if the Braves continue to roll the way that they were in the first couple of weeks of the season, that lead that they have right now is going to stretch all the way to 5 games. And if it stretches to 5 games right now, I know we still got a long way to go, but that 5 games is very quickly going to keep growing and growing and growing. And if it does, I think we're going to see that headline again come October.
Producer Doug came up with the headline. I just want to let you know, Coley, that the entire time you were talking, I didn't hear any of it because all I was hearing in my head was, it's a problem-free philosophy. Like, if Acuna doesn't use this as his walk-up song, I don't know what we're doing anymore. I mean, like, if it isn't Timber and Pomone, like, with the walk-up action, like, I get that that's not pump-up walk-up music, but, my God, I need this injected in my veins. It's all I'm going to think. I'm going to find a way to use it over and over and over again. So I apologize in advance to Braves fans because I've now heard one thing I find funny, and I'm going to just kick the dirt on this. Like, I'm going to drag this joke all the way into the ground. That being said, I do kind of like your take here. I do like the concept of a hot Braves team riding. My question is, if they have a 5-game lead by April 24th, will you allow that to let you be comfortable and enjoy the summer, or will you spend the entire summer saying, we can't blow this 5-game lead?
I will say I'm not probably the diehard Braves fan that I was as a kid, where I really hung on to every game of the 162 schedule. So I'm probably not going to be quite as chaotic if the lead collapses or doesn't stay. But I will be a little concerned, like, I don't know, man, this team, I thought they had this going in April. What's going on here in July and August? Can they get back in the mix? I might be feeling a little nervous, but I won't be as nervous as, maybe I would have been when I was 16, 15, 14 years old, when I was back in the days with Dwight playing at Adams Park.
Yeah, that's the thing. Coley just reminded you why he's an adult. I'm the one that unplugs the Furbos in the house during Raiders games because I don't want any video footage of how I'm about to react, and I'm a grown man. I realize that makes me a moron. Coley, we couldn't have done it for the last week without you. It's been a delight. Obviously, we've known each other for a while, but been a delight to get to work with you all week long. My friend, thank you so much for hanging out with us on Yahoo Sports Daily. Stick with Coley. He'll be back with us over time. And in the meantime, Caroline will be back tomorrow. I'll be with her right here at 9 a.m. Come back, see more Yahoo Sports Daily. Thanks, Coley.